Welcome to another episode of Think Mighty, a video series and podcast for active lifestyle and outdoor brands, where we interview marketers, founders, and entrepreneurs on their growth strategies. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube or follow along wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Let's get into the episode. Awesome. So we got Kyle Graves and Owen Bell with Bearded Goat. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Yeah. So you guys are seasoned pros at this, right?
Yeah. We talked before that how many of these we've done. 0 is the number.
Nice. So go ahead and tell everybody who you are, what Bearded Goat is, and what you guys do at Bearded Goat.
Okay, I'll start. My name, like you said, is Owen Bell. Sort of in charge of the brand. I was brought in about a year ago or so to rebrand and reposition Bearded Goat because it was actually an established brand here in Fayetteville. So that was kind of like my preliminary job and my preliminary kind of contract, and it sort of has turned into this full-time position, which has been a lot of fun.
Basically, everything Owen touches becomes cool. My name's Kyle Graves. So I came on board about the same time as Owen, maybe a month later. I graduated from the University of Arkansas in 2016, and then I went to work at Walmart. Walmart's headquarters are in Bentonville, which is just right up the road.
That's where I live. Yeah, I live there.
Owen loves Walmart. So I worked there for a year and a half, and then I left November of 2017, came to Bearded Goat, and I kind of run operations here for the brand. So it's been fun. Very different than corporate America, that's for sure, but it's been an amazing experience.
So how did Bearded Goat get started?
There's sort of a backstory to it. His name's Dakota Riggins. He started Bearded Goat and was printing t-shirts and sweatshirts and hats and, kind of like selling it out of his trunk kind of vibe. Like it was very grassroots, and it was positioned a little more towards a smaller demographic. Like, I don't want to say it was like Supreme-ish, but it was definitely in kind of the skateboard world. So his father-in-law, Terry Turpin, who's just kind of a legendary, he's a legend.
He's in the Northwest Arkansas. There's the big businesses. There's a Walmart, Tyson, JB Hunt, and there's a small business, and there's like this mafia of business owners. And Terry is one of the elite small business. Terry is the owner. Yeah, where were we going?
What was the question?
Podcast 1.
Showing our rookie
rabbit hole over here. Yeah. So Terry Turpin is the owner of Bearded Goat.
No, there's a segue we're missing. So Dakota founded the company, right? And as the story goes, as Terry would say, Dakota married his daughter and decided he needed to get like a real job. Stop selling t-shirts out of your trunk. Like, get serious. No, but I think it was Dakota's decision, obviously. But Dakota had made enough noise with this small brand that Terry was like, man, that's it's kind of interesting. It caught his interest enough to where he made an offer to where he just kind of bought the company from Dakota, and he sat on it for a while. And I believe it was summer of 2017 when he really decided, like, you know what, let's try to go after this thing and kind of go at it in a more serious way. And that's kind of when Kyle and I kind of were introduced to Bearded Goat and to Terry, and it all kind of just that's where the rebrand started. There was this big vagina gate. Can I say vagina on your podcast?
You just did, so you're good.
So we've said vagina a number of times on the campus of the University of Arkansas. So Kyle and I did this marketing class where they bring in some like startups from like around the area. And so we were invited to speak at this class. I don't think the teacher knew what she was getting into, but there was this talk of our old logo looked like a vagina, and like we just kept hearing it over and over.
It was so true. It was,
to be fair, it's a hoof print. Like, if you Googled
goat hoof print,
or deer hoof print, any of those like outdoor animals, like, those big like game animals, they all kind of have the same hoof, and then there's the two little things underneath.
Yeah, sure.
That was part of the rebrand, was taking the old logo, old positioning of the brand to like t-shirts and skaters. That was kind of the old Bearded Goat. And then Terry bought the brand, repositioned it, designed us a new logo, rebranded us a little more extreme, a little more legitimate.
We like to think it's a little less vagina-y, a little more rough around the edges, a little more extreme.
Nice. You can put that description on your dribble page, I'm sure.
It's all over.
Well, cool. So you said you wanted to make it more extreme. What is Bearded Goat as a brand? What is it all about?
Basically, we're a little over a year old, and I don't think we really knew who we were as a brand and or have defined who we were as a brand until probably a couple weeks ago. I think we wrote down a statement that we, fit the brand for the first time.
And it's probably still evolving a little bit.
And it definitely is still changing.
This is what I wanted to be sure to say this. If you go into a startup, if you're not willing to like evolve at all, like if you think you're going into this and you're going to be headstrong in your direction and you're headstrong on who your audience is, and I know everything up front and then I'm just going to execute and it's going to work out. No. That's not the right way to go into it, in my opinion, because it's going to, it's just going to change. It's always going to change, really, if you're growing. Yeah. So anyway, so that goes in what you're saying about who we are as a brand, our brand statement. It's kind of like, and it's been evolving for over a year now. Figuring out who our real customer is. It's taken over a year to figure it out, but we have a good idea. I don't want to say we figured it out because I just don't want to say that.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody ever actually figures it out, do they? It's kind of always changing and kind of always evolving. And if you're not, you're dying, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because you want it to always be growing, new markets. Well, we do have a focus for 2019. It's actually pretty specific to college kids.
Where we've landed, this is a great time. First time we've been able to tell someone,
Oh, we're so excited. I'm so glad you're listening.
Yeah. Thank you for asking these questions.
Yeah.
Our mission as a brand is to make cool things happen in your life through apparel or experiences. We came to that conclusion. Those are the two things, because the college student is our target market, and those two things we think take up most of the college kids' brain and energy, and that's where a lot of them kind of align themselves and spend a lot of time in those two worlds. So Bearded Goat, as of now, is wanting to impact your life through apparel or experiences. Two things we want to make happen as a brand. Our positioning, we've kind of been able to define recently too, is we kind of live in these four worlds, which is lake, this all-terrain world, which is kind of mountain, outdoorsy.
Dirt bikes,
mountain bikes.
Shout out to the dirt bike riders out there.
Every day and the performance. So those are kind of our four worlds that we live in. The lake is one we're really excited about and we love. The lake is a huge part of life in this area, in Arkansas, and then a lot of the Southeast. The lake is just a huge part of everyone's life. And there's not really an apparel brand trying to own the lake. There's a lot of equipment brands that make life jackets and ropes and wakeboards. But we haven't found one yet, an apparel brand that's trying to own the lake world. So that's an important quadrant of our brand positioning that we really like.
Because we wanted to stay, we need to find, what is our lane? Where can we stay authentic to this area and authentic to who we are and who works with us, in our company. And that's where we landed, was primarily the lake, but also that all-terrain that, in this area, mountain biking and bikes are a huge part of this area right now and a huge part of the growth. It's only going to continue to grow. So we saw that just as important as the lakeside. And that's also, there's a huge market for there because there are people mountain biking all over the country and really all over the world. The outdoor brands, there's huge outdoor brands overseas. The normal person hadn't even heard of. They don't have American football and baseball and all these sports that are so huge in the American culture, don't exist over there. Those athletes are focused on being on the mountain and, doing all these cool outdoor activities. They're building brands around that stuff over there. So
you talked about experience being part of the brand. Owen, how have you focused on crafting that experience for your customer? That entire customer journey? Talk a little bit about what you've done from the brand side.
This is actually a fun topic because up to this point, we haven't had the flexibility to create a really fun experience when you're receiving a box that you've ordered from online from us. Unlike a normal startup, someone is taking care of our shipping for us. And so we haven't had the a normal startup, you can write a handwritten note and throw it in the bag as you're sending it off. We would love to do that kind of thing, but it costs more. That's another step for them to ship. So but 2019, one of our goals here early on is to actually take over our shipping, do it in-house. We've been kind of brainstorming on like what that could actually look like when it comes to like what you're saying, what that experience is like when they're sitting at home and they've, it's been 5 days, 3 days, whatever, since they've ordered. And we want to make that a fun experience that they've had with Bearded Goat whenever we're not even there. So that's one of our goals for this year when it comes to ordering online. I mean, kind of what goes along with that is we've built this custom website. It's been fun to be a part of that ride. We want it to not be a normal shopping experience. Like, we didn't want a normal e-com site. It's been more of we want to get people to our site just to like waste time, because I came from a background from an online publication. I worked there the majority of my 20s. It's called Uncrate. And it's a kind of a men's buying guide, sort of tech to cars so I was the style editor there. So it was my background was publication. I think that's what kind of drew Terry to me at the beginning, because he was like, I want to create this experience that's not like a normal shopping experience. I think we've done it pretty well. Like I'm happy with where our website is right now. I'm hoping to dive a little bit more into that this year. So yeah, experience online has been great for us. And then, in store, we have a great retail manager, Maggie Williams. It's kind of she's our third. See this thing as a triangle, and then up here above the triangle, covering, blessing everything.
That's interesting that you came from Uncrate. I wasn't aware of that. I'm familiar with that website. And now that you say that, now it's all starting to make more sense about why the site's like it is, which kind of leads into my next question. Talk about the 4 ways by 4 days.
The idea was we wanted to take some customers, take some college kids and give them, an unforgettable experience. And that's their interaction with us as a brand. So we decided to pick out 4 locations in the US that we thought our brand lived in, which at the time was snow, surf, desert, all-terrain, and then kind of forest were kind of the 4 worlds at the start. And so we decided to take a trip, make it a contest, push out ads and post about it. Sign up for this trip. We're going to go to 4 different locations in 4 days, consecutive 4 days, and then we'll fly you home, pay for the whole thing. You can bring a friend with you. That was kind of the premise. So we blasted it out. The winner was a girl from Texas A&M. She brought her boyfriend who goes to the University of Arkansas here. And we flew him. We met him in Salt Lake City, went and skied Jackson Hole the first day, drove back down, flew out. Day 2 was in Salt Creek Beach area, south of LA. Day 3, we were in the desert riding 4-wheelers and dirt bikes and dune buggies. And then day 4, we flew up to the Redwood National Forest north of San Francisco. And then day 5, everyone flew home. And then version 2 happened this past summer in Iceland. We decided to just stay in one place and kind of experience, a multitude of worlds and environments, because Iceland's like Mars.
So I assume everything went as planned on these trips?
Honestly, the first one, we were joking the whole time because we didn't really have any flights.
Oh, until the very end.
Yeah.
We landed. So we flew out of Tulsa because it's so much cheaper than our XNA here. But we landed in Tulsa and we're like, man, I can't believe we made it without any hiccups. Yeah. And Kyle and I, and then we're in the back of my car. I was driving and we got stopped at a toll and I had no cash. No one had cash. No cash, no what's the Easy Pass or whatever. And apparently I had done that before. So I had like a strike on my license plate or something. So they were like, we can't let you through. We tried to talk our way out of it, and then she ended up calling the police, and we had to wait, she was like, pull up there and wait for the police to get here. So we had to wait 30 minutes just on the side of the highway until this cop got here, and then he pulled me out of the car, and I had to get in I sat in his
he pulled you into the cop car.
I was kind of scared, honestly.
You're like, well, Owen just got arrested. So.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the pictures and I was like, this looks like an amazing experience. And then I started counting the people. I was like, y'all had 10 people in one of the photos at least. So then my mind went to how much did this trip cost? Whenever you're thinking about a budget, Owen, you probably have an awesome idea about brand, and then you have to discuss it with maybe Kyle or somebody else and work it into a budget. So talk about how you all determined what the value of this experience was to justify the budget that you were going to spend to do it.
Well, first of all, you can blame Terry for this one because this was his idea.
I think at the time, looking back, Terry, was really smart. The things he was so interested in doing was just how can we make a spark as quick as possible? Because we're building this huge brand. It's like a huge spaceship, but to get it off the ground requires so much energy and work. And so Terry's always looking for what's a spark. It may be expensive, it may hurt, it may not make sense a lot at the beginning, but let's do something crazy. Give it a chance, maybe to go viral. Give it a chance to reach thousands of people through ads and some of the stuff we push out afterwards. So A lot of it was just speculation. I mean, we acquired probably 2,000 emails.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of an email grab as well.
But a lot of it was just a way to kind of get off the ground and just make a big splash early.
And what were some of the results you guys saw afterwards once you used the content generated and you were able to kind of leverage the experience you guys put together?
We went to collect as much creative assets as we could. Wow.
Just say it.
It was a content creation. I said it.
I had this thing for the content creator buzzword that's just gone viral recently. And it just drives them up the wall. So we try and slip it in there.
Everybody's creating content now.
And so when you guys released all of that, did it get a lot of following? Did a lot of people kind of go crazy over it?
These days, viral is a funny thing. It's like, what does that even mean? We would throw around that word, but like going truly viral, it's like you're going to end up on like the Ellen show or something. It's different levels to viral. So for a small brand, it's like, man, if we can gain a few thousand follows on Instagram and kind of start developing our core customer, maybe we can trap them with this and then start feeding them what we're developing and then get them kind of hooked. And I think it worked. I mean, we got a few thousand people in our brand, and I think it's just grown from there. A lot of this growth stuff we're talking about was like hadn't even started yet, honestly.
How would you categorize your campus rep program?
So what we talk about in-house is we consider them that new buzzword, the micro influencer. Like, these aren't famous athletes. These aren't famous whatever with reality shows or whatever famous person, but they are, they have 800 to 1,500 friends on social media and that trust them and that are, they're actually friends with them. So if they say something, if one of your friends all of a sudden associating with a brand, you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, what is that? You're at least going to like look into it. So I think, that's, sort of the trend, and we're trying to jump on that. And to me, it makes a whole lot of sense. You're not counting on this one person with a huge audience. You're counting on a lot of people that are part of your community that are into your brand. These are real people. And I think there's something special to that.
So we call that the tribe. So we talk about building up tribes around brands, identifying your customer, and then building that community around them. Talk a little bit so tell me how you all set up your campus rep program. And then how do you manage it?
We started with Arkansas, and we hired a couple part-time college guys and basically just asked them to find their friends they thought would like the brand, gave them some discounts and gave them some stuff, got their feedback, and kind of just let them rep the brand. Basically just allowed the word of mouth among friend groups kind of to foster and grow.
Actually, that part of that whole viral thing, like now, the stuff that pops up now that's going viral is like Barstool, these college dudes doing like keg stands and like slapping somebody or some stupid stuff that you can't help but watch. You're like, damn it, I love this. This is funny. There's just so much good, I have to say it again.
Yeah.
There's so much good content out there that a lot of brands, we had this discussion the other day. It was like, it's expected now. You're going to be a respected brand of any kind. You're going to put out good visuals, good videos, and it's just part of it. Like it's not special anymore. Like it's just something you have to do. So it just goes back to that viral world. It's like, or word, you can't go viral with a great 2-minute video anymore, just because it happens obviously, but like as a small unheard of brand, you can't just make a good video and be like, man, we're gonna go viral because this is a great little video about our brand. Like nobody cares. Where virality can happen in the kind of the truer sense of the word is like word of mouth. Where are these people congregating in real life and like talking about real things? And part of what we like about the campus model is it's like, man, this is like these are clusters of our customer that are confined to this like one space where they live and go to school together. If we can plant a few of our team, tell them our family, it's Bearded Goat family, plant a little cluster of them and campuses around the country, we see that as a way to sort of go viral in real life and not count on like a social media platform to do that.
You called these campus reps micro influencers. How do you sort of qualify them as a micro influencer? Is it by the number of followers they have, or what do you look for when you try to identify them?
It's definitely not the number of followers. We kind of have our core, the worlds that we live. We're just having this discussion. It was like, man, this needs to be more concise. But like our athlete enjoys the water, they enjoy mountains, and they're going to be on the roads and the trails. Like they're going to be doing stuff outside, right? But then like how we categorize kind of our offering as far as like our clothes. The lake world, all terrain, kind of the tough, rougher stuff that you can go hiking, dirt biking, or whatever. And then everyday in the performance, it's sort of a wide open, like that all kinds of people can live in those worlds and do those things. And that's kind of the beauty of this. We're not going to be picky about how many followers you have, you know, because that you can't trust that anyway. Like I could go buy 10,000 followers today and be like, I'm famous. But there is a way to see, like, you know, you can look at somebody's page and be like, yeah, they're kind of living the life. And that's what we're primarily looking at this point.
So you almost are looking to see if they kind of align with your brand and your brand values more so than how many followers do they have.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody's not active or whatever on Instagram, they have 40 followers. You know, that's 40 people. Hey, that's 40 people. That's 40 customers. That's great. You know, that's just not what this is about. It's not like we have a huge following.
Yeah.
We can't hold everybody to that standard. Like we can't even hold ourselves to a big following.
It's interesting you say that. I was listening to a video the other day, and the guy was talking about making podcasts and making YouTube videos. And he set a challenge for himself to do one video a day for an entire year. And he did it. And he was saying, you know, he didn't necessarily get a bunch of views, but what mattered were the views that he did get. And he was saying how you don't know who that person is. If you get 20 views, you can make the impact on one person and now you have a customer, right? Versus if you got thousands of views, you know, and it doesn't generate anything, that's kind of worthless, right?
That's
So true.
That's a great way to look at it. That's exactly right.
So even, you know, it sounds like what you guys are doing is really focusing on, it sounded like you had some personas you were going through, and you guys just want to make sure that you're picking the ones that fit the best and the highest quality based on the brand.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, we want to be, by nature, we want to be an inclusive brand. Like we want anybody and everybody to wear our clothing. There's different ways to go about this. There's a lot of successful brands that are very exclusive. Like, you know, only cool people that ride really expensive bikes can wear our stuff. Don't want to name any names.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, man, we want to be the opposite. We want anybody and everybody who, I don't care what your job is. We don't care what your major is. You know, if you're going to go out and enjoy the real world and not just be living on your phone. Oh man, we just heard about this thing Vitamin Water was doing. One of our part-time dudes that helps us with the campus team, Vitamin Water is doing a contest that was like, submit a video. I think it's a video or maybe even a photo too. And we're going to choose the winner that convinces us, whatever. They left it really vague. But the winner has to go without a smartphone for a whole year. And then I think, what else? That doesn't sound like a
What did they pay him? I thought they like.
Oh yeah, no, it was a big purse. It's like $100,000 too.
If you use a flip phone for a year, they'll pay you $100,000. They send it to you, and if you use it for a year,
they send you a flip phone. Okay.
and you get paid.
Anyway, that was when we heard about it. It was like, man, I love that. I love that for Bearded Goat, because it's like that's sort of along the same lines. Is like we want our people to go out and like experience things like in the real world. You know, we want you to maybe take your camera and share the photos with us too. But like, we don't want the dude that's just sitting around playing video games or whatever. Like, we want you to be out living life to the fullest. It's more of an attitude, I guess.
I like that a lot. We'll talk about, so you guys, y'all are like in startup growth mode right now. You're talking about evolving. What are some things that have been surprisingly successful for you in your journey this far?
One that comes to my mind while you're thinking is we had a really good Christmas season push. Which is funny because we would trickle in orders, through the day, online orders, that is, throughout most of 2018. And then we set some pretty high goals for ourselves for the Christmas, this 30-day span before Christmas. And I think we blew out everyone's projections on what we would do in that 30-day span. But that was pleasantly surprising for us, just to know that we had that many people that were aware of our brand.
Yeah, paying attention and liked the stuff, and it just took a holiday season and a couple of promotions to get them over the hump. We didn't realize how big our audience was, I think, until this past Christmas, and we were like, whoa, there's a lot of people that. One other thing that I've been surprised with is how successful we've been with our clothing. We don't have much stuff right now. Like, our offering is not that big, but the stuff that we do have is really good, and it's when people feel it and they put it on, the majority of the time they're sold. We have this bamboo shirt. It's 95% bamboo and 5% spandex, and it's incredible. It's the softest shirt ever made. Like, literally, in-store conversion rate for somebody that comes in and tries on one of the bamboo shirts is like, it might be 100%. Yeah. It's literally like, if you try it on, they're like, okay, yeah. It's not depending on what you're used to. The price point is not cheap for a t-shirt. It's $50, $52 t-shirt. But you know, that's depending on what brand you're comparing that to.
Yeah.
It's not outrageous, but it's not also not very, it's not cheap. But when you put it on, it's like, okay, I would pay $100 for this t-shirt. Or we do short sleeve and long sleeve. We'll send you one.
That's interesting that you bring up the fabric and the texture, and you're talking about the physical experience of the product. As you work through the brand and the e-commerce side, how do you communicate? How do you translate that to the digital world?
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. We thought about doing some kind of, we obviously learned about all the roadblocks, but like, you know how Warby Parker, like you can send, or you pick out your 5 that you want to try on or whatever, and they send them to you. But like, we're like, man, what if we could figure out a way to do a home try? You know, if you don't love it, send it back, whatever. We kind of ran into several obstacles that would people with stinky pits or smokers blowing weed smoke on our shirts and sending them back, whatever.
What are we going to do with that?
Yeah, what are you going to do? And then there's other risks. You know, if you take their credit card information and then you have to store that information somewhere, and if something happens to it, you're liable. So it's a lot easier with frames when it's your whole. It's what Terry said too, which makes a good point. It's like that's kind of Warby Parker's business model, right? So like it's not something you can kind of just like plug into your business without. That takes a lot of it would take a lot of energy and a lot of time.
Well, cool. So we talked about the surprises. Let's talk about some struggles you guys have had. What's something you've had to really work through and been challenged with?
I mean,
Everything.
Talking about a startup, right? Yeah. Everything. Man, I'll just say, I guess it's not a struggle, but it's just more of kind of the way. It's more of the way of life. Like you never stop thinking about your business, your startup. Like you never stop thinking about it. You go to sleep thinking about it. You obviously, I have a 1-year-old son. Like if I'm at home, like playing with him, I'm not like mindlessly playing with him and thinking about our business. But no, it's like, you do find yourself, it just kind of takes over your life, which it should. And that's a very common thing for small businesses and for startups. But that's the one thing that I've kind of been like, man, it's because I've heard that before, and now living through it, I'm like, yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, we definitely experienced that as well. It's like your mind is you're always coming up with ideas, and you got to have a notebook or your iPhone to write it down all the time.
Always.
So what, there's probably a lot of people out there that want to start a clothing line similar to Bearded Goat or have aspirations to do so.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
What advice would you give them?
Some of the struggles, I guess this goes back into your last question, really. When you're a small apparel brand and you're building apparel and you don't, if you're a startup, you have 0 people, right? For day one, and when you're talking about going to these factories, wherever they are, whether they're here in the US or in India, China, Africa, wherever, the minimums that you have to order, it's scary. There's a lot of risk in it. Like, because you're putting orders in for a lot of clothes that you're just on day one with 0 customers. You're like, well, I guess I need to find some customers now, So I would say that's the biggest thinking about doing it. Just know that there is a lot of risk to it. And I would just say be original. Just try to figure out a little market. You don't have to build a $50 million company. You can find a small niche market that no one else is doing, or that you can put a unique twist on it and do it and make a good living. And it's fun. You're doing what you love. But it's not easy to get into those factories and source material and find a spot in these huge, you're competing with huge brands who are making tens and hundreds, maybe hundreds of thousands of pieces of clothing, and you're like, hey, let us in there, let us slide in there, make a few pieces for us. Yeah. It's hard. So just finding the right partners to help you get in there is going to be a hard part of it for you, but it's possible.
Yeah, I would say ease into it, especially when there's a lot of places you can find. Everyone thinks they want to start an apparel brand. They want to be designing everything from scratch. There's a lot of companies that all they do is build pre-made styles that you can just pluck from and say, I'll take 100 of those. And you don't have to do any of the designing. You have to work with factories. That's
good advice.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that do that. So don't think you have to design from scratch, to have your own apparel. You do design from scratch. That's when you really get to define everything as a brand. That's why we've chosen to do that. You don't have to jump into the factory world, and you can ease your way into it with some t-shirts and stuff, and
build an audience.
Audience first, and then start feeding them.
That's really nice. Why didn't we do that?
Should have done.
Those are all my questions. Where can people go to either sign up for your campus rep program or find Bearded Goat?
Yeah, so beardedgoat.com is where you can shop. And on that menu, there's a link out to our Campus Rep site. But that site is rep.beardedgoat.com. You have to have an email address to sign up. So it's a campus rep program. So, just a forewarning. Find us on Instagram at Bearded Goat Apparel. Anyway, so we have this long Bearded Goat Apparel. It's so long, and that's the other thing is we don't want to be known as just an apparel brand. Like we want to be sort of an experience brand too. Like down the road, we have aspirations of throwing a music fest, or some other way to we don't want to be in the apparel box. Yeah. That's why we're also fighting for that Instagram name. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.